Hello you guys and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be altering some book covers. And pretty much this is going to be a little spooky maybe for some. I know for me it got a little spooky after I finished it. But a very fun project to create. So what I've gathered here are some gauze pieces. I have this DIY eye that I created using hot glue and a bead. I also have some Decoart Mod Podge, and I am going to be pretty much constructing a cover similar to that of the one in the movie Hocus Pocus. I wasn't really quite sure which way I wanted to go with this, but I was kind of intrigued about creating one similar to that one, to the one of that movie, and I think that I did pretty good overall. So what I'm doing now is that I've pretty much added glue to some of the gauze pieces, and I got them nice and moist, and now I'm kind of wrapping them around to create the shape that I want and to get the coverage that I want. You can do this in many different ways. You don't even necessarily have to use gauze. You can also use tissue paper, regular paper, paper pulp. You can do so many different there's so many different ways of recreating something like this. If you're interested in seeing how I created the eye, then definitely let me know down below, and I'll be sure to create a DIY on how I created that, because Halloween will be around shortly, and you know, it will be something cool to add to some of your spooky projects. And so I know it's not the season, but again, I just had so much curiosity to create one, and I found myself going through my beads, and I saw this one bead that kind of caught my eye just because it just brought to my attention, like it looked like an eye. For some reason I saw an eye when I looked at it, so I was like, you know what, this bead would be perfect to recreate one. And so I did. And so some of you guys know that I've been kind of like in a crafty funk lately, and I don't know, this just happened to come out of all of that craziness. And yeah, I wanted to share with you guys how I did it, so I did go ahead and record the process in case some of you guys might be interested in wondering how something like this is done. I had no idea how it was going to come out, but I think it came out really cool. So for right now, again, I'm just shaping and just, you know, gluing down and shaping, adding more glue and shaping. That's mostly what I'm doing, you know, just to get the shape. Now with this eye that I created, I did make it a little bit bulky than what I would have liked to have made it. Again, because it was something just that I was testing out. I never did something like this before, but I've learned a lot from creating it, so now I know how to approach it from a different angle. So for the next time, I'll know exactly what to do and how to do it. So again, just applying and applying more of this gauze, and I'm not going to cover the entire book with gauze. I'm just going to cover more or less a nice area around the eye. And what's perfect about using gauze is the fact that it gives it some texture. So you don't really have to add too much texture to that area, because the gauze in itself, you know, can kind of look like skin, you know, with all of its little cells and all of its little wrinkles. And it just gives it kind of like a natural look. And so this has been super cool. When I first started it out, I didn't know what was gonna happen, how I was gonna do this, or where I was gonna go with this. This is pretty much a journal, and I'm not even sure if you can really call it a journal. It looks more like a recipe book, and I've had it for quite some time, and I didn't know what, for the life of me, you know, what to do with it. And then I figured, you know what, let me make it into something spooky. It can be turned into a recipe book. It can be turned into all different kinds of things, and let's just see how it all comes out. I might even be doing a giveaway for this, but I'm not really sure. So if you guys think that I should go ahead and do a giveaway for it, also let me know. And if you do want me to do a giveaway for this, then let me know what you like about it. I think that's fair enough, and then I'll choose a winner. I didn't really make this to keep it. Again, it's just pure experimentation. That's usually how I go about my crafts. And so now I'm going to be adding some stenciling. The cover itself is completely dry. I've let it dry for some hours now, and I'm going to be using some Decoart modeling paste in black, and I'm using the stencils called Time Warp, And I kind of consider this book to be like the eye of the future, if that even makes any sense. Just because of the fact that I added things related to time. It sees all and knows all kind of thing. But yes. So I'm going to do some stenciling on both covers. I will go ahead and gesso the front and the back of the covers as well, just to make sure that it can take the mediums and the paints and everything like that I'm going to be applying to it. And I think overall it came out super cool. It has a lot of texture, and it did come out very, very spooky. I put some pictures on my Instagram as I was going through the process of making it, and everybody was just like, oh my goodness, like, ooh. I got a lot of like eeks and oh my on the comments. So yeah, definitely came out a little bit on the scary side, but very cool overall. Very, very cool overall. So here I'm just clearing out some of the holes, because as you know, when you apply modeling paste, especially when you have openings, it's going to go into everything. And now I've let this part of it dry again, and now I'm going to add another layer of stenciling now that my original stenciling is dried and done. And that tape did not work, you guys, so I'm just going to clip it down. And again, going back into it with my black modeling paste and just adding this modeling paste in there. And for that one, that's the only thing that I'm going to add to that cover. For this one, I'm going to add a little bit more. And this stencil is called, let me see if I can find the name of it. It's called Royal Tile, and it's another Decoart stencil. And now I'm going to go into it with this Dollar Tree stencil, which is like a sticky stencil, which is super cool. And it just has a lot of vines. And I just wanted it to have a lot of texture. That was really what I was going for with this, is just to add a lot of texture. Especially because I was going to be painting over it again. And distressing it and making it look kind of vintagey and old and worn. I really wanted it to have a lot of texture on both covers. And I think I did achieve that. So that's it for that. And I'm just cleaning out my stencil a little bit and getting some of that black modeling paste off of it. So now what I'm going to do is, to go even further, I'm going to go ahead and add some seed beads all around the eye, just to give it that nice texture and make things even stand out even more. Plus it kind of sets a perimeter, or a shape if you will, for where the eye is. So I'm going to be adding some around the eye, and then I decided, you know what, I think I need a little bit more in some other areas. So I'm going to add some in the bottom and as well as in the top corners of the book as well, just to give it that nice texture. And here I'm just moving some of those little seed beads back into place, because some of them did roll off and the modeling paste is not completely dry. So if you're going to recreate this or something similar to this, FYI, let everything dry thoroughly. You can either leave it alone to dry, or you can use the heat tool and dry it. And I'm using regular craft glue for this, you guys. Nothing fancy. I think it's actually Eileen's tacky glue that I'm using for this. And so just creating just a little area in the bottom to go ahead and add some more. And you're just going to pretty much see me putting those things in place and just making sure that they're nice and stuck on, and getting rid of anything that's loose so that it doesn't fall off later. And I'm going to do the same for the top, using some of those little beads that I had left over, plus adding a little bit more. Again, it's all about texture. It doesn't really matter what color beads you use. Any tiny little beads will work for this kind of project. And just to create texture in general, any little kinds of beads will work. And I think we're almost done with this part of it, and yes, we are. At this point in time, everything has dried thoroughly, and now I'm going to go ahead and apply another coat of gesso over everything. And the gesso that I'm using again is a gesso by Decoart, and I'm applying that with a brush, but you can apply with whatever you wish. I just wanted to lay it on nice and thin. I didn't want it to be too thick of a coverage because I still wanted that texture to kind of show through. So I'm just kind of brushing it on, and any little loose beads that come off, I'm just brushing off to the side. And you don't really want anything that's two-dimensional on your back cover, just because it can interfere with your writing or adding, you know, other things inside of your pages. So I left the back cover flat. And here I'm using some raw umber in Decoart Media Fluid Acrylic. And fluid acrylic is a very loose acrylic, so it was perfect for this kind of project. And I wanted to look very vintagey, very old, so I started off with this color as the base, and I will also go ahead and add some other colors like Buttermilk, which is a regular acrylic paint by Decoart in their Americana brand. Covering up some of the edges. It does look like it's a little bit warped, but that does straighten out as it does dry. And plus, once you paint the other side or add, you know, glue and paper to the other side, however you're going to decorate it, then everything kind of levels out. So this is some Buttermilk, that's the color, and again, this is by Decoart Americana, and I'm applying a little bit of this and kind of, you know, just applying it haphazardly all over the place in random places. This one is light Buttermilk, so it's even a lighter color, or let me see. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm not sure if that's Buttermilk or not. No, that one is warm beige. The second color that I added is warm beige, which is a little bit more of a skin tone kind of color. But these are all just layers. I'm just adding layer upon layer upon layer, just to get the desired look. And I start applying it mostly with the brush on its side. I'm not going directly, you know, bristle down. I'm kind of laying it kind of flat and applying the color that way, so that it mainly catches just the raised areas, which is what you can see here. I'm also using black, again part of the Americana line, and I'm just using the sides of the brush. I have my paint somewhere off on the in the front of me, I'm sorry, and I'm dipping from there very thinly and just kind of brushing it on from the side. And then once my brush is really dry and hardly has any paint on it, then I'll use it you know, straight on. And it's mainly just to pick up all of that texture, that beautiful texture that it's all over this book. I'm also going to be adding some metallic paints in Rich Espresso, and that's part of the Dazzling Metallics, which is another product by Decoart, which I love metallics. Mostly all my projects have some level of metallics in them, unless I'm working on like a skin tone or something like that. But for the most part, I love that product as well. So here, pretty much just continuing to darken up some of those areas and distress the look of it. And I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side, just so that everything looks, you know, matchy. And here I'm gonna start kind of going around the eye and giving the eye some detail, making it look like there's actually an upper lid there, because you couldn't really tell before. So I'm using a very small brush, just to add a little bit of detailing and give it its own, you know, its own identity, if you will, even though the eye is enough. But just to give it a little bit more texture and give it a little bit of shading, and make it look a little bit more like there's an actual eye there, like it's actually popping out through the book. So I'm kind of going in with dark colors like the raw umber and a little bit of the black, and with the thin brush kind of just putting that on there, with the dry brush kind of rubbing it in, so that it's not necessarily too heavy. I didn't want it to be too heavy. I just wanted it to be kind of like enough where you can see an upper lid and a bottom lid for the eye, and then just going into the actual lid part with some black, so that it kind of separates itself even more. And even though it's a very scary type of thing, and this is normally not the kind of art or projects that I do, I really did like how this came out. Not so much because of the spookiness of it, but just because of the detail, and the texture, and just the way that the stenciling came out. Everything else worked like to the T. So it came out really cool, and I've never really done anything quite like this before. So I'm now intrigued to try with different items, different things, and see what else I could come up with. And what's crazy is that the eye itself, it's just hot glue, you guys. It's hot glue and a bead, and then I painted it to look like an eye. And then to make it glossy and shiny, I used another product by Decoart, which is called Liquid Glass, which I've used before. You guys have seen me kind of use that product before. And it makes it all nice and shiny, so it actually catches light and reflection just like a real eye would. So I didn't really have to add like highlights or anything like that into it, because it catches natural light. So here you see me using some of that Rich Espresso, which is a metallic paint. And that's pretty much what I did, just to add a little bit of shine to that cover. And now I'm going back into the inside with the raw umber, and I wanted it to look like wood grain. I wanted this book to look like somebody pretty much created out of 2 planks of wood, and to achieve that, what I did is I used the raw umber, and then I'm gonna go into it with some black and just do some streaking here and there, just pretty much to make it look like the wood grain. And since the brush itself is kind of something that I use mostly for rubbing things in, the bristles are really spread out, so just by painting it on directly, I already achieved like a textured look, and by adding the black over it, it just made it look even more like weathered wood. So super cool. I hope this project didn't spook you guys out too much, and that you enjoyed watching the video. I hope that if anything, you guys will give me some awesome feedback. Please give me a thumbs up for this video. This was a lot of work, and it scared me half to death half the time making it, but I did finish it. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. We have a lot of fun things going on my channel as we speak. So if you're watching this video as of March 21st 2018, I have a lot of things going on in the channel. We have a hop coming up. I'm also celebrating 2,000 subscribers, so I have a challenge for that, so hopefully you guys will go ahead and check that out as well. This is me now putting the rest of the book together, and I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you're interested in winning this, and if I get enough people asking for it, then I'll definitely do a giveaway. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll